Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the United States, and Happy New Year to everybody. And thanks all for joining our Office 365 U.S. Partner Community Call. So today we are going to give you a couple of Skype for Business updates, and we're going to talk about the Skype Operations Framework, and we're also going to be talking about the EMS for Office 365 partners. That's enterprise mobility and security. So again, welcome everybody, and we're going to use our typical event builder. And so for those of you who have questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the interface, and we will do our best to try to answer those during the call. And if you don't see your question answered right away, we will have some time to answer the questions after the presentation and in between presentations, so just hang tight on that. So I'm very pleased to have David Branscome with us today, and he is one of our cloud solution architects for voice, who's going to take you through the Skype Operations Framework, which is really an important tool for partners. There's so much there, and it's just beyond a quick 5-minute overview. So David's going to take us through that, and then we will have our own Nick Johnson as well, talking about the enterprise mobility and security. So with that, if you're new to our community, just letting you know the different channels that we have, and one of them is the call, which you're on now, and you can get to those through these different vanity URLs. So there's the monthly calls there. We also have a very vibrant Yammer group, and you can get to that aka.ms join Office 365 Yammer. We have over 2,000 partners that are members there, and a lot of great dialogue back and forth between partners, and also get important messages from Microsoft as well. And then you can see what's happening on our blog by aka.ms/US blog. And we have an accompaniment to that, which is the enablement blog, and I'm going to send out that link in our chat window a little bit later in the broadcast. I want to make sure that that's getting the exposure as well. And the purpose of that blog is there are little smaller bites of information that you can get kind of ongoing updates throughout the month on different important Office 365 and voice topics. So first I wanted to just plug some training very quickly, which is the Skype for Business Technical Airlift. And as the name suggests, it is technical. And I have spoken to partners who have taken this training, and they have given it high marks. In fact, one of our presenters today, David, I know has presented on this material, and we have some new dates and new cities for you. So this is not new, but this is just kind of an extension. And depending on budget, we'll be giving some more of these. But these are all the dates I have for you right now. But we will be able to publish additional dates as we get later on into the year. So you can see the registration information there, which is aka.ms, Skype for Business Technical Airlift. Now, everybody wants to know, hey, will the decks be posted? And they will be posted to our Yammer group. And throughout the call, I will just put a link to that Yammer group so that in case anybody doesn't have it, you can get to that Yammer group. And then I will post these slides probably later today, and so if you miss some of these URLs that I'm going to present, you'll be able to get those. So some of these updates are fresh, and some of them are really kind of came out of the Ignite, but just to kind of walk you through so that you are briefed and kind of up to date on what's been happening. And first is the announcement of that Skype for Business Mac client. And so this is a new Mac client. There's also some new mobile sharing experiences on there that has been released, and that has been introduced by a nice blog post by David, which I've highlighted up there in the upper right-hand corner. And so when you download the deck, you can go check that out, and he tells you how to go ahead and take advantage of that and start using that. And that's also, by the way, on our enablement blog, which I will post so you can see some additional articles on there. There also have been some accessibility updates, and that you may have noticed, depending on your tenant, that Skype for Business 2016 has a new look and feel. And so with that new look and feel, a lot of things that are kind of subtle are actually very helpful for many people with challenges on accessibility. So it's very helpful for them. So, and also there continues to be geographic expansion of PSTN calling and conferencing. It's now available in France, in addition to the UK, US, and Puerto Rico. And PSTN conferencing is available in at least 92 countries. I have a feeling that there are more there that might need to be updated. So the Skype for Meeting broadcast, and this is a transcription service, so you'll be able to state your language preference to be able to have that automatically transcripted into your languages. There's a few different languages that are supported, and you can read more about that in the Office 365 blog. And it's supposed to be coming at the end of 2016, and yes, we are in 2017, and I don't have any additional updated dates for you, but I believe that will be expected very soon. And then the Skype Operations Framework, and I'm not going to steal any of David's thunder. That's going to be presented up next, so I won't spend too much time talking about that, but it really is a framework approach to plan and deliver and operate Skype for Business. So that's all I'll say on that for now. And maybe the best tip I'll give you today is the Skype Preview Edition. So there's a URL there, skypepreview.com, and there's a lot of great preview programs. So you either as an individual or as an organization can go in and try out many of these preview features. So we're talking about things that have been announced as far back as Ignite. You can try them out now, organizational auto attendant, call queues, PSTN calling in Spain, Skype for looking for recruits on that, Skype for Business call analytics, and also some of the video interoperability from some of the Polycom VTCs, and also the Cloud Connector Edition 1.4 update. So a lot of important things that are coming, and a lot of partners have been asking about. You can go ahead and check out that preview editions page. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to David Branscome, who's going to talk about the Skype Operations Framework. David, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm Dave Branscome. I'm a Cloud Solutions Architect on Mike's team, and we'll be talking a little bit about Skype Operations Framework. And in my discussions with different partners, there's been kind of a wide range of knowledge about what Skype Operations Framework is. Some partners have been working with it since it came out, and others don't know what it really is. So just to kind of level set with everyone, the idea behind Skype Operations Framework was to help our partners certainly, but also our customers to succeed with their Skype for Business Online deployments by providing a set of assets and tools and documentation that will help improve the reliability and the quality of their Skype for Business deployments and migrations. So that's really the goal behind the Skype Operations Framework. I forgot to take over here as presenter. Hang on. Okay, so we should be on the Realizing Business Outcomes slide. Is that correct, Michael? I apologize if I...
Yeah, it's coming through, no problem.
Okay. So one of the things that's important here is the statement that's made up at the top. It's an important concept. It says realizing business outcomes requires quality. So what we're saying here is that from a customer's perspective, a successful deployment means more than just getting the Skype for Business client deployed to X number of machines, right? That's no longer considered necessarily a successful deployment. What we really mean by a successful deployment is that the investment that a customer has made in the product has to be reflected in the value that the business gets out of that product. And that means that the product has to be used by the business. So to put it simply, what we're saying is that the quality of the deployment underpins the usage that we see. So if you deliver a service, a quality service that people love, that your end users enjoy using, they're going to use it, and they'll find new and innovative ways of doing things that are going to help the business. Now, because of that, it's critical to treat Skype for Business as a first-class citizen in your IT infrastructure, the same as you would your other communication collaboration investments, your Exchange and SharePoint and so forth. So what that means is we have to ensure that we've done things like prioritizing real-time voice and video traffic. And when we do that proactively, your customers are going to have fewer disruptions. They're going to have fewer bad end user experiences because of maybe configuration issues on the network or on the client side, things that could have been avoided. We help avoid those types of scenarios. So we have to understand that when we're planning to use a real-time cloud service like Skype for Business Online, there are certain activities and expected outcomes that you need to take into account during the life cycle of the project. So some of the things that are mentioned here on the slide: preparing and setting your environment up correctly to deliver a quality experience. So for example, that might mean taking the time to get your network and your internet access set up correctly and sizing your bandwidth correctly. Driving end user adoption. So thinking about how to create communication plans so that your teams, your customers, end users, they understand why the technology change is being made, what's in it for them, so that there is a desire to change and adopt this new platform. And then the third one that's mentioned, even though Skype for Business Online is a hosted service, we have to do some planning for ongoing management to ensure that the quality and reliability are delivered throughout the product's life cycle, that any issues introduced by the customer's environment, that we can rapidly detect those and remediate those as quickly as possible. These are just some examples of the types of questions that our customers, our partners have been struggling with as they plan to deliver Skype for Business Online. So, what are the right tools and approaches to deliver a network readiness assessment? How do I make sure that the network readiness assessment that I deliver captures issues that are going to impact the quality of my deployment? What are some of the steps I have to take before moving to the cloud? How do I enable my users in the cloud? How do I care for licensing? How do I interconnect my existing telephony infrastructure to the cloud? So, I've got an Avaya PBX or Cisco PBX on-prem. How am I going to connect that to the cloud? Who are, if you're a customer or maybe if you're new to Skype for Business Online, who are some certified partners that I can take advantage of or, leverage to help with these ongoing managed services for helping me watch my Skype for Business Online deployment and detect any problems or issues that might be arising. So we know that when we're delivering Skype for Business Online, when we're adding real-time workloads, really the stakes are pretty high, and the expectations that our customers have for the quality of that service are going to be even higher. So we have to make sure we do this right, and that's the idea behind the Skype Operations Framework. So we created this to help answer some of those key questions and scenarios that your customers and you as partners might have. Now it's interesting here. There's three phases that are addressed, and we intentionally built the Skype Operations Framework to address planning, delivering, and operating, because all of those phases have some sort of bearing on the quality of the service, as well as things like the adoption and usage of the service. So again, it's really not enough to just light up the service, apply the license, enable the users, and walk away. We have to have some sort of an ongoing process to achieve and maintain quality and reliability for the service. So the Skype Operations Framework is intended to provide you with the assets and the tools that you need to do that, as well as outlining the sequence of tasks that are required to undertake these key activities during a deployment. So let's take a quick look at the key outcomes of these plan, deliver, and operate phases, and then we can dig deeper into the actual Skype Operations Framework itself. So if you see right here, what we're talking about is the plan phase, right? So these are the activities that are involved in the planning phase of Skype Operations Framework. And the idea here is to minimize the surprises that might pop up by doing an assessment, a readiness assessment of the environment, a network assessment, and also the envisioning and preparation phases are going to help the customer and the partner agree on a common shared vision, meaning everybody understands what the goals are and how they're going to be achieved at the beginning of the project. That's important so that everybody's on the same page. So as I mentioned, we have the envisioning phase, which is what we're going to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. Then we go into assess. So we're going to assess the current environment, the Active Directory. How are you going to synchronize your users from on-prem to the cloud? How's authentication going to take place? What sort of integration points are there with Exchange? And then we get into the design phase. So, for example, again, which firewall ports are going to need to be opened? How are we going to handle the rollout of the Skype for Business client? Are we going to be upgrading from a Link client to a Skype client? Are we rolling this out to Mac users? What about mobile devices? All these different things that have to be factored in are addressed during the design phase. How's this, the solution, how's it going to interact with the existing PBX, for example? So all this stuff will be addressed during the designing aspect. And then finally, during the prepare phase, we deliver on the design. We decide on what the design is going to look like. Everybody comes to an agreement, and we realize what the next steps are going to be. So again, the goal of the stage is to create consensus among the project team members. So the customer, the partner, Microsoft, if Microsoft is involved in the project, about what we're delivering, what the end goal should be. And it's also going to result in a shared view and an understanding of any remediation activities that are needed to prepare for a successful deployment. And we need that shared vision because we want to ensure that we have the support of the customer's executive sponsors, the guys that are able to drive budget decisions, that are able to make decisions about how assets are or resources are allocated. And it also helps everyone on the team to drive awareness, because everyone will then understand and agree upon the objectives, will understand how to deliver training, how to measure success, failure, and so forth. So that's the planning phase of SOF. Now, the second phase that we're talking about here is deliver. Now, using the SOF methodology, a migration to the cloud service is going to take place on a site-by-site basis. So if you have just a single site, then it's pretty simple. But if you have multiple sites, then things get a little more complicated because you may have to coordinate with different teams, different network teams, different desktop support teams, and so forth. So we've provided site-by-site documentation to help you make sure that your rollout goes very smoothly and in a coordinated fashion. So when we do this correctly, when we have this good coordination between the teams, it does help drive adoption and long-term use of the service, because if the project lacks coordinated effort, then the end users can very quickly lose confidence in the product or the service and just refuse to use it, or not leverage it to its greatest capabilities. So some of the key stages that we're looking at here are deployment. So we touched on this a little bit earlier. How are we going to deploy the clients or peripherals, headsets, physical phones, room systems? One of the nice things about SOF is that in the documentation that we provide and in the training that we provide, we include guidance on not just the Windows client, but things like deploying the Mac client, deploying Polycom phones, deploying Skype room systems, and things like that. So it covers a wide variety of client types that are addressed in the deployment areas. We're also going to provide you with scripts and processes for enabling our users, getting them started using the service, making sure that they have the proper licensing applied, making sure that they are enabled for the right services. Then the question becomes, how do we hand over the service to the customer's operational team? Or if you as the partner will be managing operations, what does the operational team that you manage, what do they need to be successful? So that comes into play during the enable and adoption aspects of the deliver phase. Now, enhance is kind of interesting because we're also going to be looking during the deployment, we're going to be looking at new opportunities for enhancements as we go through the deployment process. So as an example, maybe initially we only deploy IM and Presence for Skype for Business, but we see that end users are very comfortable with it, they like using it. Maybe they're anxious to use Skype for Business for conferencing. So at this phase, we can already begin looking at ways that we can begin our process of rolling out other feature sets. It doesn't mean we would roll it out at this phase, but we can begin going back to the plan phase, and for a second aspect of the project, we can begin looking at rolling out other features. It is a key point to remember that the ongoing operational roles and capabilities have to be in place if we want to land even that first site successfully. We have to understand who's going to have responsibility for which aspects of the service and how they're going to carry those out. This isn't something that can be just tacked on as an afterthought, just handed over to help desk. It needs to be initiated at this point so that everyone understands their respective roles and responsibilities. So we have assets that will help you do that. And then third, we have the operational phase. So ongoing operations, as I've kind of been alluding to, are going to be key to the long-term adoption and usage of the Skype for Business Online solution. Now, obviously, Microsoft is operating the elements of the service that are located in the cloud. However, your customers' network, their clients, the configuration choices that they'll make as far as group policies and things like that, those are all going to have an impact on the quality and reliability that they experience from the cloud service. So things may be working great on day one, but over time, networks and system configurations drift. And that change, that drift, can impact the quality that end users are seeing. So clearly you want the quality to get better as things change, but sometimes factors get overlooked or configuration changes impact a feature that you weren't anticipating. Sometimes people just make mistakes, right? All these things mean that our operational processes need to be evaluated on a day-to-day basis. End user management tasks, the monitoring of quality and reliability data. We need to be able to identify and drive targeted and timely remediation of any issues that we discover. So that's really the goal of the operate phase. And we have documentation in SOF related to the operate phase that will help us ensure high quality assignments and responsibilities are covered during this phase. So we looked at each individual phase from an isolated perspective, but here we see visually how the phases of SOF really are incorporated and work very closely together with one another. So in the plan phase, for example, the bulk of the work is going to be in the envisioning, assessing, and designing and preparing the environment. But there's also going to be things that relate to deliver, like scheduling the sites, evaluating your personas and your rollout plan. And then also at that point, already you're going to be looking at how to plan operations. Same thing when you get to the deliver and operate phases. There's aspects of planning. There's aspects of operational operational tasks here in the middle that you're going to be addressing in each one of those phases. So the phases, while they're clearly delineated in the the circle that we see up here, they really meld together, and you're addressing all those phases throughout the life cycle of the rollout. Now, the slide here is just providing an example of some of the factors that we will be addressing in the Skype Operations Framework. So we all know that the idea of getting the network right is critical. But how do we know, or how do we do that from a practical standpoint? What are the important pieces to consider? So these are some of the things that the Skype Operations Framework will walk you through. Evaluating what client versions you're using. Are you using Link 2010, Link 2013, Skype for Business? Do you not have clients deployed on your desktops at all? Do you have the right IP ranges, ports, and protocols enabled throughout your network, not just on the edge firewall, but throughout the network? Because very often there's more than one firewall on the network between different network segments and so forth. Proxies, WAN optimization devices, all these elements on the network can have an impact on the end user experience. So we want to make sure that we're factoring those into our planning and making the necessary adjustments accordingly. So we have documents and tools in SOF that help walk through these elements and ensure that all these factors are considered in the design and deployment of your Skype for Business Online infrastructure. Now the next three slides go into all these different stages, activities, outcomes. Rather than going through a bullet-by-bullet discussion of every single one of these things, which would probably put most of the audience to sleep, what I want to do is show you SOF and how you can actually leverage it. So I'm going to share my desktop, and I'll show you the Skype Operations Framework website and also the actual assets and tools that you're going to be using with SOF. So what I intended to show you here was the idea that when you go to the Skype Operations Framework website, skypeoperationsframework.com, what you'll see is a couple tabs, and if you're kind of following along with what I'm describing here, you'll see a tab called Get Started, Learn It, Give Feedback, and Partners. Now the Learn It tab is really a set of content, videos that you can watch online to understand how to use the Skype Operations Framework, how to go through these different steps and how to use the different tools so that you can properly deliver a project or an implementation using the Skype Operations Framework. Now, the tools that are included in the Skype Operations Framework are the things that we're talking about here on this deck, on the slide that you see. So we're going to have assets, so questionnaires, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, scripts, all these different things that will help you understand how to deliver on these envisioning steps. So how do you perform an environmental discovery? How do you define business use cases? We give you all the assets that you need to do this, as well as presentations that you can use in your discussions with your customers. Assessments. How do you do a network assessments? We give you tools that allow you to do that. We give you training videos that show you how to perform a network assessment, things to look for. What are the personas that you're going to look at? How do you perform a baseline health assessment? And what's interesting, a couple weeks ago, I'm based in Dallas, and Polycom came out and did a presentation a couple weeks ago. Part of the day was dealing with end user or customers, and then part of the day was dealing only with partners. What was fascinating to me was that during the customer part of the day, there were a number of customers that said in the deployments for Skype for Business Online that they're working on or that they're doing RFPs for, they are specifically leveraging the Skype Operations Framework as parts of their RFP that they're saying, do you perform this set of tasks? Do you perform a persona analysis? Do you perform a network assessment? Do you do a readiness assessment? How do you deliver on your coexistence and migration design? So the customers are aware of the Skype Operations Framework, and they're using it to filter out perhaps partners that aren't using the Skype Operations Framework in their delivery methodology. So that's really good to see, because for one thing, it ensures that they're going to get a high quality deployment, right? If they're requiring that these different activities are undertaken, you're not going to get into a scenario where a customer is going to try to lower the price by saying, oh, I don't need a network readiness assessment, or adoption isn't all that important, I'm not worried about that, we'll take care of that afterward. That's going to be built into the statement of work. That they're requiring it from the partners that they're working with. So that's really good news. And it also means for you as a partner, you have the opportunity to differentiate yourself. So certainly you'll be leveraging the Skype Operations Framework, but what are the things that you can do that make you unique? If all the other partners that are replying to that RFP are doing the same basic set of tasks, what is it that makes you unique? Do you have some particular skills with Cisco PBXs? Do you have extensive telephony experience? Do you have extensive experience with high complexity deployments? All these different things are ways that you can differentiate yourself above and beyond the basic tasks that are included in the Skype Operations Framework. So what we're looking at here again is the planning phase. We have the same type of phases or aspects included in the deliver phase. So we have activities and outcomes that we're looking at in these different phases. And then finally, in the operate phase, we have, again, activities and phases that will help ensure that we're delivering on the expectations of our customer. So I apologize that I wasn't able to share my desktop. I was really hoping to show some of these things to you. But if you think about the Skype Operations Framework, you call it the unboxing. So when you go to the Skype Operations Framework website, there's a link off to the right-hand side near the top of the page that says Downloads. And when you click on the Downloads button, or the URL there, you get a list of all the documentation, the PowerPoints, the scripts, and all that stuff that's included in the Skype Operations Framework. So you download that, and each of those documents can be leveraged to ensure that you deliver the same type of deployment each and every time, that you're using the same high quality standards for your deployment, and that you have a repeatable methodology for delivering these types of engagements. So again, the concept behind SOF is to deliver projects and provide a reliable and high quality Skype for Business Online service. So again, this was written for both customers and partners to create kind of a trusted bridge of understanding. So we know that some customers are going to undertake these projects in-house, and they're going to leverage our SOF materials. And then there's going to be some customers who will handed completely over to partners. But there's also going to be maybe a smaller subset of customers that are going to do part of it in-house and then hand over the remainder to a partner. Now, what that does is, since both of you are using the Skype Operations Framework, you can both understand what tasks have been accomplished up to this point. So if the customer says, I've gone through the entire planning phase, you should be able to, as a partner, say, okay, great, hand me this set of documents. These are the ones that should be the outcome for the planning phase. If the customer says, oh, I don't have any of those, then you can say, well, then you really haven't completed the planning phase. You need to work on that, and we can help you with that. By the same token, the customer can hand over the project to you, and they have a defined set of expectations of you, and you know what those expectations are because you're using a common framework, right? So that's why it's really, really nice to see our customers leveraging the Skype Operations Framework and taking full advantage of it. Some of our partners are what we call soft managed service partners, which means that they have incorporated, they've already incorporated the Skype Operations Framework into their own Skype for Business Online or Skype for Business on-prem hybrid offers. And that means that they can not only help you plan and deliver Skype for Business, but also help you with the operational tasks. So they can make sure that from an ongoing perspective, they're managing the add changes, deletes for users. They're watching your network performance. They're watching your licensing and things like that. Now, our goal, obviously, is not necessarily that those would be the only partners that leverage SOF, right? We want to make sure that any partner that's delivering Skype for Business Online would leverage the Skype Operations Framework toolset so that everybody is delivering these consistent, high-quality deployments. So if you go to skypeoperationsframework.com/partners, you can see a list of the partners that currently have been trained in SOF, as well as the offers that they have provided. They've gone through some specialized training with members of the Skype for Business team, and they are considered SOF ready, and they've prepared specific offerings that align with the Skype Operations Framework. So that's the goal for all of our partners that are delivering Skype for Business Online engagements. This is what the website looks like. So again, you've got your getting started area. You've got the Learn It, where I was talking about you have the videos and so forth that you can start to learn how to use SOF. Giving feedback, so that if you have ideas about what should be included in SOF, that can be provided there. And then the partners that I mentioned, these are the ones that can work with you to provide added value to your Skype for Business deployments. This is the area where I was talking about where the downloads are performed. And then something else that's important for you as partners, there's an assessment that can be done for SOF. So what this means is that you go through the learning phases, and then you take the assessment, which shows that you have gone through the training, you understand the SOF material, and presumably you'd be able to deliver an engagement that is aligned with SOF. There's also the Skype Preview program, which Michael alluded to earlier, where you can sign up for different preview programs. There's the Skype Academy, which is additional training and capabilities. Skype Community, a blog post where everybody's able to share information. And then, again, the Skype feedback. This is the shortcut link to the SOF community. Here is where you're encouraged to share your experiences with your peers, whether they're partners or customers, as well as the Skype Operations Framework team, and contribute to the Skype Operations Framework community. And then finally, the feedback link. We want to think of Skype Operations Framework as a living framework. They're going to continually be updating the assets and delivering new, what we call journeys. So right now there's two journeys that exist. There's the Get Deployed and the Cloud Migration journey. So Get Deployed you could think of as being a greenfield deployment, and you'll have all the assets and steps necessary to perform a greenfield deployment. The Cloud Migration deployment would be the type of engagement where you go in and the customer already has Lync or Skype for Business deployed on-prem, and you want to move them to the cloud. So you'd have a little bit more expanded set of assets and tools to accomplish that type of deployment. So those are the two journeys that exist now, but there are going to be other journeys that will be added to the Skype Operations Framework about on a quarterly basis. So keep checking back with at the SkypeOperationsFramework.com website to make sure that you're up to date and that you're leveraging all these tools that are available to you. Skype Operations Framework is a great set of assets and tools, and we're happy to work with you guys and make sure you're successful using it. So now I'll turn it back over to Mike, and he can introduce the next speaker. And I'll be watching the Q&A. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to work with those offline.
Dave, thanks for taking us through that content. Really appreciate it. It was a good presentation. Only was one outstanding question that's there, and if partners take that assessment, do you know, like, if they don't pass that the first time, can they take that again? Will there be opportunity to pass it if they don't get it the first time?
Are you talking about the assessment off of the main page? The partner set.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can take that back to back. There's no constraint on that. You can just take it as many times as you need to pass.
Yeah, my guess is that partners probably want to see what's in there, but they don't want it counted against them. That's probably what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
So okay, great.
Now there is, there is talk that's going to change. So, if you can get yourself grandfathered in, that's probably the best idea. But Excellent. So thank you again. And so if you have additional questions, please go ahead and type those in the window, and David will get to those. He's moderating. And for the remainder of our call, a topic that's been really important lately is security. And we have Nick Johnson. Nick is a technology specialist for partners, and he is all about enterprise mobility and security. So we're happy to have him with it. And it's just been, I've seen a lot of synergies between Office 365 partners and EMS, and a lot of them do that kind of together. And so happy to have Nick with us today. Nick, you don't have too much time, but I would really appreciate an introduction and an overview for our audience here today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael, and welcome everybody. Thanks for hanging with us through the call here. My name is Nick Johnson. Like Michael said, I'm a TSP who focuses on partners primarily in the enterprise mobility and security space. So what I'm going to do here is try to get through about 62 slides in the next 10 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Not. Just kidding. I just got a couple of slides to talk to you folks about. Really, as Office 365 partners, you have a tremendous opportunity to really help drive some additional revenue for yourselves, additional profit for yourselves, but help your customers secure their environment. And so what I want to do, rather than just sort of talk product and features with you, what I want to do is give you a couple of the key questions that I typically ask partners, and I coach my partners to ask their customers about the way that they're driving security. And these questions are ones that typically open the door for that conversation to go into how can we help you from a partner perspective, help you as a customer really enhance the security model and the way that you're thinking about things, and kind of get it up to be a more modern thought processes, a platform, all those different things. Of course, enterprise mobility and security is the underlying platform that we use to do that, but that's not the only thing. And so what I want to do is sort of give you some of those key questions that you can ask. I also want to share with you at the end some resources to help you learn more. I realize just over 10 minutes is not enough to do any sort of a deep dive on enterprise mobility, but it is a good start. And so what I want to do is start with a little pop quiz for you, actually. So think back over the last month or two of your own life. How many times have you heard about a data breach? Right? On the news, you're jumping online, you're seeing it on your favorite website, whatever it is. How many times have you heard about a data breach? We all have, right? There's been accusations of it, influencing political things in our country. There's been, corporate instances of it. Whatever it is, it's very real, right? And how do those data breaches typically happen? A lot of them involve usernames and passwords that are stored. And they're stored in a way that's insecure. They're stored in a way that they get lost, or users accidentally give them away to their customers, or to the hackers, and we don't want that to happen. And so we have to prevent those data breaches. But we also have to prevent something else. And this is my second question I usually ask partners and ask customers is, how many applications, websites, online tools, whatever it is, do you typically use in a day to get your job done? And sometimes you got to prompt them to think about that, right? So what websites do you go to? Is it a website to book travel, or is it a file sharing thing like a Dropbox or a Box or a Google Drive or OneDrive for Business, hopefully? What are some of those online tools that you're using on a regular basis? And then I simply ask, are you using any tools that are not necessarily controlled by your company? So did you go out and find it and think, wow, this would really help me get my job done, and I'm just going to do it? Well, what's the risk of doing that, right? There's a lot of reward in that. Users tend to take the path of least resistance. They love to get their work done. But what happens if those tools are outside of the control of the company and data that shouldn't be posted outside the company is, right? All of a sudden you have a company-initiated, user-initiated data breach because you've actually sent it out there unintentionally. And it doesn't necessarily have to be credit card data or social security numbers. It could be something as simple as next month's marketing plan. Well, if your competitor got your marketing plan, what could they do, right? They would do ad buys and things like that go directly against what you're doing. And so we have to be very cognizant of all those online applications and services that we're using. And we have to figure out, how do we secure those? And for your Office 365 customers, that's a very, very common scenario, I think. And so from a Microsoft perspective, we really look at this in a couple of ways. When you think of EMS, if you think of it like 2 years ago, right, what did we think about? We thought about mobile device management. We thought about our phones, our tablets. We got to put passwords on them. We got to put security in place. But it's so much more than that now. Because of that, we need to think about sort of creating a platform where we secure identities, where we do secure devices, where we secure the applications and the data that we use online and the data that we create and we post online or we send to each other. And then we also have to secure our infrastructure. And we really feel like from a Microsoft perspective, the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite really paints a holistic picture of that. So what I want to do is spend a couple of minutes on this next slide. And you can see I don't have any product names on here. But this is a common environment scenario that you're going to see with a lot of your customers. Maybe you experience this in your own day-to-day work, right? Over on the very far right-hand side, you've got the user, and the user interacts with a device and documents and data all day long, right? And some of that documentation and device access and everything goes up and it interacts with the cloud. And you can see there's just a few cloud applications listed there. There's tens of thousands of them in reality. And the identity is the key that unlocks that door. But then down in the bottom left-hand corner, you've also got on-premises resources. You might have legacy applications. You might have databases. You might have customer management systems, right? CRM systems. It all surrounds data, right? And so when you start to layer into this product names or features, here's where EMS really starts to light up. So we do have Azure Active Directory Premium. And for those of you that are selling Office 365 today, this is that same Azure Active Directory that's back-ending your Office 365 logon experience. So extending that to your customers is super natural. It's such a great transitionary thing because you can say, hey, we've already got this. You're already doing some of this. Let's actually extend that identity that you use for your login to your email and your Word docs every single day, and use that in a way that it can log into all of the different cloud applications you might need to use. Why is this important, right? Well, it creates a single database where you have a single username and password that can be highly controlled by a company, but it can also be highly monitored, right? We apply what's called the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. And that intelligent security graph, that's a lot of technical jargon to say Microsoft is doing a really good job at protecting the hundreds of millions of user IDs that are being used as a part of Office 365 and Azure Active Directory today. And we can help protect those as they exist across the cloud. And we've gone so far as to establish relationships with over 2,500 online cloud providers where we can now use our logins to sign into their services. Google Documents, hopefully not because they're hopefully using Office 365, but Salesforce.com, Workday, Concur, some of the very common things that are being used out there, we can use Azure Active Directory to unlock those doors. The next thing that we have is Cloud App Security. Now, I asked earlier, how many of you use cloud apps on a regular basis to do your job? And the fact is, everybody's doing this today. Cloud App Security allows companies to find out what are all the different apps that users might be using, even if they haven't told us about them yet, and put appropriate controls and monitoring in place. It doesn't mean turn them off, right? Sometimes you're going to stumble on something that's really great. We want to help customers be able to use those applications. But Cloud App Security allows the company to be familiar and comfortable with what their users might be using, and also put appropriate controls in place to make sure data is governed in a proper way. The next piece is Azure Information Protection, and this is such a beautiful tie-in with Office 365 because it is so deeply integrated. Now, if you've been around EMS for a little while, you know that we had a thing called Azure Rights Management, and that allowed you to classify documents manually, put controls in place, send them to people. Only certain people who got it could open it if they had the right credentials to open it. Azure Information Protection is now part of the new E5 SKU, and that ramps that up. And it ramps it up by automating a lot of that classification. So if you have any customers in your purview that have to do regular document classification based on their own business requirements or maybe their industry requirements, they should be looking at Azure Information Protection because it's going to give them a layer of control and a layer of automation that takes some of that burden off the end users, but allows it to still be in place to help protect the company. It's a beautiful solution. EMS is made up of 5 things, right? And so we also have Microsoft Intune. That is the traditional mobile device management piece. It is a really strong product. It's going through a lot of changes right now. It's going to be modernized onto the Azure portal. That's actually launching into preview here this month. We're not going to talk a lot about Intune. And then we also have Advanced Threat Analytics. And Advanced Threat Analytics is an on-premises network user behavior monitoring tool. I don't have time to dive into that in depth today, but even if you have customers who say, we don't have to do anything on the cloud except Office 365, Advanced Threat Analytics could really be of a benefit to them. And so if you've downloaded this slide deck, I've actually included several slides that dive in a little bit deeper on each of those products. So if you want to look at them in a little more in depth, you can. But the way that I sort of frame this for customers when I talk to them is, hey, if you've got Office 365, there's a natural connection point in 3 areas, right? One is Azure Active Directory. Let's extend that cloud identity piece and start using that across all your cloud applications, not just Office 365. Azure Information Protection. You're already creating documents in Office 365. Let's make sure that those documents are protected and that sensitive data for your company is being protected every single time you touch it. And then Cloud App Security. Because they're on Office 365, you know that those customers are not adverse to doing something in the cloud, right? That probably means they're doing other things in the cloud. So let's get Cloud App Security in place to make sure that we're protecting the company across those things. If you take those 3 things alone, the E5 value of the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite is tremendous. If they've already got some other mobile device management solution, right? If they've got Mobile Iron, they've got AirWatch, that's not a thing to say go away. That's a thing to say let's add in this other stuff to build a holistic security piece that does what I talked about earlier, and it secures across the users, the documents, the devices, and the infrastructure. And so you're probably sitting there going, wow, you just covered a lot of stuff in 10 minutes. I did. We've got resources to help you. And if you're sitting there going, this might be a good add-on to our business, similar to what you're at here with the Office 365 community, we have an Enterprise Mobility and Security community. You can see the links here in the deck of how to join those. We'd love to have you join those. When you do, you're going to get access to, and you can get this here in the slide deck too, but we've got a tremendous amount of resources, incentives, right? There's a lot of funding around EMS that's available right now. We've got tools to help you learn how to sell it, to demo it, to implement, to train your staff. We've got a lot of stuff available. So I know we've covered this just briefly here today. I want to make sure that you're aware of these resources. If you have any questions, you can come on over to our Yammer group. I'm on there. Feel free to come and ask me questions there. So I know that we've got just a few minutes and we need to close out, so I want to honor your time here today. And I saw one question that popped into the queue, so I'll answer that and then turn it back to you, Michael. And the question was, is Advanced Threat Analytics delivered via cloud or only on premises? ATA is an on-premises solution today, so it monitors the on-premises network. The analysis piece of that does the user behavior analysis is powered by the cloud, right? So you don't have to do anything major on premises. You don't have to install a bunch of high-powered servers. The back end of that is powered by the cloud. So that's the questions I have. Thanks for listening. I know we went through this really fast. I'd love to have you over on the EMS group and talk way more in depth about all these things. So Michael, back to you.
Terrific. Wow, that was a nice overview real quick in a way that everybody could understand and get a handle on it. So for more information, please go to our Yammer group, and you can see Nick's community on there in addition to the Office 365 community. And we have that link in our window, and I will be posting the slides to this deck so you can see those resources in totality just a little bit later today, probably in less than an hour or so. So thank you so much to Nick and to Dave, and thank you so much. And again, Happy New Year, everybody, and look forward to you joining on our next call. And if any other questions, the stream will be open for just a little bit, and I'll answer any other questions that come in. So thanks so much. Take care.